It's time to start.
Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
I feel like the guy, Johnny Dangerously, gets hit with the newspaper. I'm blind. I'm deaf.
Was the mic up again, or the?
No, someone Ed Fallon must be deaf.
He is old.
Oh, don't do that. That's part of kind of. You should treat a broadcast studio like a campsite. And there should be no evidence,
Let no one say to my shame, all was beauty before I came.
You crank it to like 11, and the headphones are always set to mono for some reason, so you only.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah, I don't know why that button is here. All right, what a beautiful day. It's nice. Apparently, we're supposed to get severe weather on Saturday. I was looking last night there.
I don't know, because guess where I'll be? Florida. Enjoy it.
Where are you going in Florida?
I'm going to Orlando.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Of all the places in Florida.
Yeah, I go to the dump of land. It's kind of like the sphincter
Well, no, it
of Florida.
could be worse. You could be up in the north, which is basically Alabama light.
See, I actually like, my wife's from Tallahassee, so I actually enjoy it because it's warm and you can have an orange tree in your backyard, and yet it's still kind of Iowa-y.
I wouldn't say Florida's very... Back before he really became kind of the FYIGM a-hole, when Adam Carolla hosted Loveline, right? When he was...
With Dr. Drew, yep.
Yeah, that was a great...
that was a fun show.
And they used to play, Florida or Germany, just because, for whatever reason, when anything really just messed up, like what would happen? It's the reason, like, if you go to fark.com, Florida has its own tag. Like, it's Florida.
I don't know what Fark is, but I don't know that I want to know.
I don't know. It's not.
It's not bad.
Naughty by any, no, it's a funny news aggregate.
Oh, is it like what's that one? Not The Onion. Is it The Onion? The one that's like...
No, The Onion is a satirical newspaper.
I love that. That
Fark
one's funny.
is a collection of funny news from around the world, various sites.
Oh, it's real news?
Yeah, it's real things that happened, just with funny headlines and screwed up stories and a lot of, teacher sex scandals. But they have their own Florida tag just because so many screwed up things happen. And I don't know what it is.
I believe it, because right after you get out of northern Florida, you get to Bama. And, I mean, Bama is something else. If you've never driven through Bama by way of Florida.
One of my and I have, all my relatives are from the South. My parents were the first to escape, above the Mason-Dixon line. So I can say, if you want a really good idea of how the South works, you should watch Top Gear. Are you a Top Gear?
I've seen it. I'm not a Top Gear fan, but I've seen it, yeah.
Not the American version. It's bad.
Yeah, I've heard the British version, but I've never seen the British version.
It's on YouTube, but they do these, challenges every year where they drive across, the South American, rainforest. Make it through the jungle on cars you bought for $1,000, or we're going to drop you in Iraq. Drive to the Holy Land. That was their Christmas special last year. And they buy, these like $1,000, $2,000 cars.
Would be funnier if it was like they had to have the word infidel somewhere on the car.
Here's what they did when their goal was to get from Miami to New Orleans, and cheaper than renting a car. Like, they wanted to know whether it was cheaper to buy a car, a beater in Miami, drive it to New Orleans versus just going to, Hertz. So they buy, POS cars, and they've got to drive them. They get to Alabama, and the producers come with a challenge. The goal is to get the other ones killed by writing various things on their vehicle. I don't know how much I want to spoil this, but, writing Hillary Clinton for president, driving through Alabama. Man love rules, okay. Country and Western is rubbish. I'm bi. Just little things that they would write in paint on the cars. So they get to the Alabama state line. They dutifully point out that their own road sign has been shot at. There's bullet holes in the Welcome to Alabama sign. So they're driving through town. They have to stop in some podunk town. And this wasn't like scripted. This wasn't part of the act. They pull into some podunk town to get gas. And the local hillbillies go, what's going on here? And they had to cut out of town. They had rocks thrown at them. They're like, they're calling the posse. And this wasn't like professionally shot at the time. They were like taking, like cell phone video of him pulling over, taking their like soft drinks, pouring it on, wiping it off with their shirts, trying to get that riding off their cars. I won't spoil the rest because it's telling when they get to New Orleans. But if you get a chance, Top Gear Goes to Alabama on YouTube is a great.
I will watch it.
You should. It is a very good.
I know that there was towns we actually thought were abandoned, and then we'd see like the Harley-Davidson dealership, and it was like a spanking new building, and everything else looked like it was going to fall down. It kind of cracked me up.
Yeah, it's the South is a weird place. They say the South will rise again, but judging by its current state, not anytime soon.
They got great oranges, though. You got to give them that. Their oranges.
Florida has oranges.
Florida's got great oranges. Even Alabama into Alabama, the peaches and oranges are amazing. We bought a car in Florida and drove it back to Iowa, and we loaded up with citrus. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing wrong with the food down there and the seafood. Go down to, like, the Keys. Like, any place where you can just...
the Keys.
And, like, when there's a seafood restaurant with a dock behind it, you're going to get something good.
But in Orlando, your best bet... Red Lobster. I'm telling you. We tried every seafood restaurant. We were down there for 10 days one time. We tried every seafood restaurant we could, and they were that bad.
No, you're never...
In Orlando, that's your best bet for seafood.
Even Des Moines has, like, waterfront.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
bad.
Oh, I think you had some bad inside information.
We spent lots of money. We spent $5,000 in 10 days. And I'm telling you,
all right, Brewster.
I'm telling you, it was horrible money, horrible seafood in Orlando.
Bad times. All right, coming up on the show today, multiple choice. Mitt strikes back. What we saw at the debate wasn't a one-time aberration. This time, the Des Moines Register editorial board making some news. Tomorrow night, the big debate. Republicans are already crying foul. I know you're shocked by this.
Foul.
I know. But first, last night was and this was the biggest, I think, of the Vilsack-King debates. It was on Channel 5, nominally local television. Sorry, Channel 5. Channel 5 started behind the 8 ball.
Unless they want to put us on, and in which case they are awesome.
Awesome, yeah. But they kind of started behind the 8 ball, and they've been playing catch-up ever since they moved to West Des Moines. I admit, the JLMC program at Iowa State didn't exactly do them a ton of favors, but it's been a number of years now. They haven't quite stepped their game up. But anyway, the debate last night, Christy Vilsack, I think we could take away, not a smooth operator. Certainly not... as media trained as Steve King. And don't kid yourself. Like Bill Clinton to this day, and maybe one of the best politicians in our lifetime, still does, media training. Christy Vilsack does. I mean, you have to learn how to do this. There are skills involved. Whether it's looking into the right camera. Luckily, I've only got one, so I don't have to do the, to just...
I can give you two if you want.
But there aren't two aimed at me.
Well, I can aim them at you. I got the power.
No, that's all right. I don't need any Johnny 5 cameras coming alive here. But just how you, present yourself. Like, I don't change the person I am, but I do sound differently. That's part of having, Dan and I were talking about this just because he does a show, too, You're just naturally, when you have a microphone and a set of headphones, you sound different. But how you present yourself, even, just body language and enunciation. Christy Vilsack doesn't have that. Steve King does. Steve King is very... Stop pointing that thing at me. Steve King is very, good in front of a camera. He spends a lot of time in front of cameras, which is one of the issues that Vilsack was hitting him on last night. That he really is a different person. In Washington, just one example. Are you going to flip the camera to me? Is that... Ah! Hi. How you doing? Okay, let's not do that again. Or we'll do like, here, we'll do like spooky cam. Yeah, I'm going to move this over. Like, do it, I need a shave, but, okay, it won't go all the way. I want to do like, I'll just, like, nostril cam. Okay. Somewhere else. Steve King, though, is much smoother. He is a different person, I think, in Washington. When he's at for example, a CPAC conference, when he's at a conservative cause, than when he's at home. One of my favorite examples is when he showed up for the groundbreaking of an expansion of Highway 20 that was funded by the stimulus bill. Now, Steve King has been very loud and proud about his opposition to the stimulus bill. But when it comes time for a program in his district, then he's all flowers and what a great idea this is and a great program this is. That's what he does. Steve King, at the end of the day, is about Steve King. I would argue that the Vilsack campaign hasn't done a good enough job of pointing that out. In addition to just all the crazy stuff, let's defend dog fighting, for example. Let's compare immigrants to dogs while we're at it. Aside from the crazy stuff, Steve King is a publicity guy. Always has been, always will. You put a camera in front of Steve King and don't get between it. It's a dangerous place to be. He was asked, why are you debating now? And you didn't debate in the past. You didn't deem your challengers, worthy enough. And he said, one of the reasons not to debate is because I've been called a liar twice tonight. And again, as someone who follows politics and follows Iowa politics, the thought of Steve King, complaining and crying that his fifis were hurt is, well, hilarious. The guy will call the president un-American, which has no dog whistle at all to it. But if you say anything about, my fifis are hurt. Don't say mean things about me. For a guy who, during the debate, bragged about, walking around with an AR-15, he sure is a sensitive one. And it's fair. I'm not a huge fan of Steve King. He argued against healthy school lunches. Not kidding. He wants to repeal the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act.
I don't know what that act is. What is it?
It's to encourage schools to provide healthier foods. Yeah. And again, this isn't saying, school kids can't drink soda or else... the Bloomberg man is going to come get you. But we don't have to be the ones selling it to him.
Yeah, I don't think we should be having soda in schools. That's silly.
Well, from my time at Valley High School, #1 school in the state, we had the vending machines full of crap.
Sure.
You want donut sticks, you want ding-dong zingers.
Oh, high school vending machines were awesome.
Yeah, half the soda machine was Mountain Dew because that's what we were all, chugging at the time. Providing healthier options. We shouldn't just alternate between, today's pizza day, today, French fries and, loose meat sandwich. Yeah, but
school pizza,
School pizza was pretty bad.
That's pretty bad stuff.
It was absolutely awful stuff.
It's no McRib.
No. Well, McRib on other days. I still have a hankering for the West Des Moines Community School District burrito, and really cheap, I'm sure, by the gallon salsa, but again, neither here nor there. They put every high school student in this country on a diet. It's just wrong. Even the Pentagon is coming out and saying that obesity is a Not just a health epidemic in this country. Talking about childhood, young adult obesity. It is a national security problem. And they were citing, the number of applicants they have to turn away just because they're not fit enough. They will die in, basic training. When they got to, women's right to choose. And again, these are the things that the Vilsack campaign, I don't think has done a very good job of highlighting. For example, there are honest, legitimate differences when it comes to believing in a woman's right to choose. All right, and I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me. And there are a lot of single-issue voters on it. But it's not, again, just a binary issue. There are bigger things to it. For example, earlier this year, Steve King went on a show, Wall Builders Live, hosted by David Barton. He's the guy I talked about on Friday with Frank Mink. The right wing's favorite historian, because he says things that they like and make them feel good, whether they're true or not, or different. I mean, it's to the point where even his own publisher, right, is pulling his book, saying that, okay, he's gone too far. We can't back any of this stuff up, so don't sell any more copies of it. It's crap. But Steve King goes on his radio show, and again, he's talking to David Barton fans. So what does he say there? That it's troubling to him that states can't ban birth control. He's still, upset about the Griswold decision back from 1967. Yes, there was a time in this country where contraceptives were banned. No Trojan for you. No pill, no nothing. But to him, that's troubling. Now, does he really have that view? I don't know. Here's what Steve King, knows what appeals to his audience. I don't know if I don't think he's kind of backwoods, gun-toting hillbilly. But he projects that image, at least in the old Iowa 5, because it was a very successful marketing campaign for him. I mean, I've met Steve King. I've talked to Steve King. He's not stupid. But he talks stupid. To appeal to whom exactly? It was a brand that worked very well for him, and he's altering the brand. Think of it like New Coke. That's what Steve King is putting out there. And I don't think the Vilsack campaign's done a great job in kind of promoting that. I mean, at least that's the route I would take. If I was your Josh Lyman or Toby Ziegler, that's what I would be doing. Let's show Steve King bashing the stimulus program. Let's show Steve King, celebrating stimulus projects. You want to talk about him, fighting anti-dog fighting legislation? All right, not a bad idea. Telling gay folks not to wear it on their sleeve? I don't know. It hasn't been, in my opinion, the best run campaign, but a decent debate last night. And I think, again, it was one of those, if you listened to it, you would get a much different impression than if you watched it live. Christy Vilsack isn't smooth. Steve King is, and that's always going to be a factor in the debate. For me, and again, there are more artful ways of putting this. Steve King is a horrible human being, just in general. And it's not because he is a dumb, racist, hick, backwards. It's that he portrays himself as this to appeal to backwoods, racist, xenophobic, backwards hicks. When you talk about holding your audience in contempt, that's Steve King. Yet no one is as successful as he is, while being completely, as they go, pants on head stupid. Still can't get over Steve King complaining that someone said something bad about me. I mean, The guy is famous for saying bad things about people.
Doesn't that go with being a politician anyway? I mean, you kind of know. I mean, it's like you. Do you get mad when people say bad things about you?
No, I'm glad they care. I mean, at the end of the day, just spell my name right, is the old, the old saying. No, it comes with the territory.
Exactly.
Unless you're going to be a complete, wishy-washy, I'll say anything to anyone. Well, even then, look at Mitt Romney. People will still say bad things about you.
Absolutely.
I mean, the only way not to is to, go hide in the corner.
And they'll blog about it.
Curl into the fetal position and never be noticed by anyone. There's no such thing as being all things to all people, but Steve King certainly adapts to his audience. Is that the polite way of saying it?
Well, I think adapt seems like the political way of saying it.
I don't think Steve King would stand up. I mean, I don't think he would send a direct mail piece, for example, that says, I want states to be able to ban birth control. I want states to have the right to ban contraceptives. He'll say it on David Barton's show. He's certainly not going to make a point to highlight that in a debate. And this is where, again, the Vilsack campaign should force him to answer for it. And debate is the perfect venue for it. Ask him about it. Do you feel troubled by the Griswold decision? That's what you said back in March. Have you changed your mind? And I don't know, maybe that's just part of debate prep, but you should come with some of these specifics and make him answer them. And when he doesn't, call him out for not answering it. It's very simple stuff, but so many campaigns. Again, they fill these candidates' heads with so much. It's hard, but that's just me. Armchair political scientist. All right, email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. And just go to thebradshawshow.com for almost all of your Bradshaw needs. If you have a need that is not met by the website, I don't want to know about it. Really keep that to your own /fiction blog or whatever you're doing. It's none of my concern. All right. Oh, phone. When we come back, multiple choice Mitt is back. I'll get to it after this here on Webcast One Live.
I'm just saying. 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 Ching ching. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Feeling alone? God knows and He understands. Chat now with someone who cares at groundwire.net.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's time to start.
I'm literally counseling Obama support. Don't worry.
The basic head bob.
Again, Obama supporters, when it comes to the election, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has many important things to teach us, but that one is by far the most important. All right, Bradshaw with you here on a Wednesday afternoon. The phone number is 244-0077. Email radiobradshaw@gmail.com and follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw for fun back and forth and the occasional mocking of Chuck Grass. I can't help it. Duncan Black, otherwise known as Atrios. That wasn't him you saw in the West Wing, but put up just a short blurb. And it is, the truth. When you see these deficit peacocks, the debt, worriers and the deficit, pearl clutchers, understand their goal. When times are good, when times are bad. They are simply looking for an excuse to lower taxes on rich people. At the end of the day, that's the one thing Chuck Grassley believes in. That and farm subsidies. Yeah, no one who wants to build a rainforest in Iowa with federal money is concerned about the debt.
It would be a nice place to go, though.
We have the Botanical Center.
Yeah.
And look how crowded that place is.
Yeah, but, rainforest. I mean, think of the Henry Doily Zoo. They got one. It's pretty sweet.
You really think it would be a tourist attraction in Iowa? People
I don't think you can make it the best thing that's ever made a tourist attraction in Iowa is our fair and RAGBRAI. That's it. I mean, as far as tourist attractions, there's really nothing else that brings people in out of state.
The bridges of Madison County there for a few years.
Those are...
They're really underwhelming in person, but the narrative of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good drive-by thing. Like, oh, look, we have to go through Iowa. There's no way around.
Well, I think people come for, the Tulip Festival. I mean, not a ton, but, yeah, they certainly...
Who comes for the Tulip Festival?
They do, man.
I'm just telling you, that's like their relatives that they feel obligatory in coming down.
If you ain't Dutch, man.
I'm not much, and I'm okay with it.
I'm not much either, but... Now, if you don't... if you truly cared about the debt and the deficit, and there are people who do, I think they're wrong, but we can have an actual discussion about it. I would argue with money, literally being cheaper than the price of inflation right now during a recession, it's almost malfeasance to not borrow like crazy. But again, that's a debate and discussion that I could have with someone who's truly concerned about the debt and the deficit. The problem is there are none of those in the Republican Party, and certainly not Chuck Grassley, as much as he likes to talk about it. I don't remember Chuck Grassley worrying about it, A, when it's time to negotiate the Farm Bill and how much money is going to be flowing into Iowa, or B, before Barack Hussein, super a la Obama, was elected president. Magically, when B-Rock, the Islamic Shock, or the Fresh Prince of Bel-Airs, whichever way you want to go.
I've never heard the super Allah. That one's good.
Oh, you've never seen the fake Muslim birth? Like, Muslim? Are you sure? Muslim is all hell. But Barack Hussein, super Allah, Obama. And come on, that's how the Steve King fans of the world see him.
I don't get that, though. I mean, that's pretty unreasonable. I mean, especially when they put a couple different labels on him that wouldn't support that, like socialist.
Well, it's actually really simple. He is other.
I agree.
That's the root of the message, is that he is not like you, and that is why they were, he doesn't have an American experience. He has, his ideas are foreign. Again, in some cases it's subtle, in some cases it's not. But the overall brand is he is not like you. He doesn't look like you. He doesn't have a name like you. And that's where the Muslim thing, in addition to others, comes from. There's actually a new conspiracy theory I have somewhere here. Oh, here it is. And that is that his wedding ring actually is inscribed with Arabic. Did you know this?
I was hoping you were going to say he was actually the Green Lantern.
No, his
no superpowers.
His wedding ring is, and this comes from Jerome Corsi, the guy who got kicked out of Kenya for looking for the real birth certificate. He's well, he's actually a guy who sells books to stupid people. But his latest piece in the WorldNet Daily is that Barack Obama's wedding ring is inscribed in Arabic, saying that there is no God except Allah. And his source for this is Joel Gilbert, the guy behind Dreams of My Real Father.
Where's his wife's burqa then?
Well, again, he's just that far undercover.
Oh,
that's why he brews his own beer, because it's cover. See.
Oh, that's totally right. I mean, I know that does exist in the Quran, but that seems kind of fairly far fetched.
Plus, I've seen him eat a pork chop on a stick. I mean, come on.
Well, that's not going to happen, because like if you throw pig's blood on him,
it's Muslim kryptonite to morons.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't know. It's strange. This wedding ring, apparently, and maybe it is a Green Lantern because it has a way of shifting. Because now it's inscribed in Arabic, where previously it was that he was married to his male Pakistani roommate. See, because he's gay too. That's another one of the.
I forgot. He hit on me, so.
So
I was at the fair.
So which one is it? Is he secretly gay married, or is it that he's Muslim? And again, this is typically why loony conspiracy theories tend to fall apart, because they can't stick to one. But at the end of the day, it's dog whistle stuff. Most of it is done very subtly. But luckily, we have the birthers and the Muslim usurper, and conspiracy theorists who are they're not that skilled. Their dog whistles are actually quite loud. We saw this like with the Tucker Carlson. Look how black he's sounding. He's black. And no one ever reported this. I should know because I reported on it in 2007. Like it was on Fox News. It was on CNN. But it's a conspiracy now. I know. Did you know this?
I was not aware, but that explains the skin color.
I don't know. There's just something up with the. We'll get to multiple choice Mitt in a second. Did you see this? He's a freshman representative, one of those Tea Party type. Scott DeJarlis down in Tennessee. He's your kind of boilerplate cookie cutter Tea Party anti-choice politician. Guess which party? Now it turns out that he was stooping a patient. He's a doctor. Was stooping a patient, got her knocked up, and demanded she get an abortion.
Real consistent.
Well, yeah, you know what? If he was pro-choice, this is the issue here. This is why it's not. There's nothing wrong with Larry Craig being gay. Nothing wrong with who's the pastor in Colorado? Doing math and hiring male prostitutes.
Yeah, well, they're
actually literally a direct line to the president.
Sure.
What was the guy's name?
I don't know.
The super church. One of the Ted Haggard. The problem is that if Ted Haggard wants to, get high and do dudes, but there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
We can disagree on this, but being high is inherently wrong.
What?
Yeah, you can't do meth. It's illegal.
Well, not doing math, but if you, say, turn a bottle of water into wine and get a little loopy and do a dude. If that's what, is your thing, okay.
Well, I definitely agree there's some hypocrisy going here. How about that? A lot. Dude, there's how about...
There's some air on the earth.
There's politicians. Have you seen the new pistachio commercial where they're like the Secret Service do it and get fired for it, and they're cracking pistachio nuts? I mean, there's hypocrisy everywhere.
But but that's the point. It's like these guys feel no shame. They have no problem legislating the lives of others. Amanda Marquette has a thing today on Ohio swingers for Romney. We'll let that. Maybe that's why Dace got on the Romney train this week. I don't know. Who knows what evil lies in the hearts of
Ohio swingers for Romney.
I'm not. But it's like, here are people.
I'm Googling it now.
Who literally don't want to take away other people's, sexual freedoms while celebrating their own. It gets worse. And I've never been a big fan of Arkansas because I have relatives there. John Hubbard is running for the state house. Actually believes that slavery was a blessing in disguise. Now, there's being an optimist, and then there's...
What's the context in that? How does he finish that?
Because it brought them to the United States, and look how wonderful the United States and freedom
I
is.
am sure after they were held captive and forced to work and beaten to death, they really thought it was a blessing to be here.
Well, actually, Brian Fisher of the American Family Association said that he was absolutely right. We had to look on the bright side of slavery. I'd link to the
or
video
not
on that.
I mean, maybe for their grandchildren, it's a benefit, but it wasn't something they wanted or fought for. I mean, there's no bright side to that.
No, there's no bright side to human bondage.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you got years of them being discriminated against, even today. And racism and all the kind of horrible atrocities.
Well, you're off message, man. Republicans believe that racism is over, and only black people who talk about racism are the real racists.
I think there's racism. I think it goes all ways at this point. I don't think it's just a one-way street anymore, but I think it exists. I think it exists a lot. Why do we have people like Frankie Mink around?
Yeah, well,
that's
again,
stupid.
We're not just talking about the hate, though. There's some institutional problems.
I agree, but see, I think those are the root of that hate because they when it's acceptable to be like, well, they're not like us because they're black, then suddenly, this Ku Klux Klan isn't, well, they're not really doing any harm, and I don't really disagree with them, so it's okay. And, you should really disagree with them. They're worth really disagreeing with them.
Well, I agree. Go to my Twitter feed, twitter.com/Radio Bradshaw, and read the Brian Fisher, a.k.a. Bob Vanderplatz's Money Man. You can watch the video.
I want a money man. How do we get these things, Bradshaw?
Without
lying.
Well, now there's the hard part. And again, I don't want to be contentious. I don't want to start a fight here. But you would agree with me that through history, religion has, again, not all, not every, but for many, has been a very lucrative.
I would agree that there are a lot of people that have abused religion.
Again, if I'm a grifter, right, I could run a pyramid scheme. I could, play 3-card Monty on the street.
Well, look at the Mormon faith. Fundamentalist Mormonism traps people in there because they believe, like the women that are trapped in those plural marriages that hate them, believe that if they get out of them, that not only are they going to be sent to hell, but there's no chance of them getting out of it.
But I'm not even talking about...
But it's grifting. It's grifting.
But I'm not even talking about the theological side.
But that's not Joseph Smith was a grifter. I mean, he is king.
He's a con man.
He's a king of grifters.
But Bob Vanderplatz, again, here's a guy who ran for governor as the CEO candidate and failed multiple times. All of a sudden comes back as a holy roller.
Yeah, I don't...
Not only finds, again, without his name on it, electoral success. I would say, playing with a stacked deck when it comes to being anti-judge, but turns that into a very lucrative career as the chief fundraiser for the former Iowa Family Policy Center, family leader.
What I don't like about the Family Leader or any of those other institutions isn't because I don't agree maybe with the premise of their message. It's that they then attack Christians like me that aren't going to vote for Romney and say, well, he signed our little thing, so you have to. And they tell me how I'm going to vote.
Well, remember, Bob Vanderplatz's pledge originally said that abortion was worse than slavery.
Yeah, I mean...
He had to go and edit that out.
I actually think that killing babies is pretty bad, but we were killing black people too. I don't know if that's not apples and oranges. Or that is apples and oranges. I don't think those two belong in the same sentence.
But historically, if you're going to be a grifter, if you're going to be the example I love, Bob Larson, former religious broadcaster, got caught stooping the secretary at the Disney Yacht Club Hotel. But again, you can't keep a bad man down. Now makes his living traveling around the country doing these kind of, revival shows where he will literally do an exorcism on you, cast out the demon of heartburn.
Yeah, and this is where I think the church fails. I mean, I think the Christian church in general should shut these guys down.
Yeah, but this is where we probably will tussle. That, faith and belief above all else leaves you very open to those sorts of messages. I mean, there are Christians who believe that an open mind is of the devil.
Well, dependent, I don't even know what you mean by it. None of us have open minds. Open mind is a fallacy. You are convinced of your position. I am convinced of my position. Now I can.
But I'm open to suggestions.
Well, but you're open to talking about it.
Audience.
You're open to talking about it and working through things. And if I say something that convinces you, your mind was never open to be convinced. It happened to be. And likewise, if you say something,
there are people and their minds are not. To be convinced.
Well, but they're not.
They don't hear what you say. They're literally incapable of.
I'm closed-minded in that sense that I'm not going to change my view of who God is or who Jesus is, right? You're not going to convince me that. But I do see that we have to deal with these things in the context of today. And in that, there is legitimate
You're talking
argument.
to someone who probably, I don't know, you go back a decade, would have said the same thing.
Sure.
And a former coworker and I used to have very vigorous arguments.
Sure. People change
about this.
People change their minds.
And, well, to be honest, again, the non-believers made a better argument. That to me, now, I'm not the type of person to say, I am 100% rational and evidence-based, because no human being is. That's not how our brains work.
No.
Even when we're, being factual and we are, pros, cons, and being empirical. All right, study after study after study shows, the emotional part of your brain filters all of that.
Sure.
It's part of, again, your personality.
And your presuppositions filter that.
Who you are. But it has to pass through your emotional curtain before it gets to the rational parts of your brain. That's, again, just human nature. That's how our brains are wired. That being said, I am open to ideas. I am, go back to the 07 caucuses. It took me a damn long time to figure out which candidate, I really lined up with. I'm getting into it with Terry McAuliffe, who was Hillary's money man at the time, and maybe again in 2016. He and I were hashing out, this third way Democrat, because at this point I'm kind of leaning Obama because I assumed he would be a bit more of a fighter than he was. And I remember Bill Clinton, that third way centrist give ground. I didn't think it would work with the modern day Republican Party. And by the way, I was right. Might have been a bit off on which candidate fought. But again, it wasn't just a case. My mind is made up and damn it, you will agree with me.
Well, it's the damn it, you will agree with me that's really the problem. I mean, it's not that Bob Vanderplaat's mind's made up that bothers me. It's that he's a thug. I mean, you run around and you force people to sign stuff, or you say, I will make sure that this group that I don't even have any authority over, but I'm going to say I do, won't vote for you because we have a lot of money and we can make these people's lives easier. It's thuggish. It's
not even that. Technique aside, maybe Vanderplaat's biggest tell was when the family leader was still looking at which candidate to endorse. And they kind of narrowed down their list to the, Santorum, Bachmann, the more religious, bright-minded candidates. And on that list was Newt Gingrich.
Yeah.
The, multiple divorce, multiple affair, sat on a couch with Nancy Pelosi to talk about global warming, which now doesn't exist. Newt Gingrich, who, again, if you want to talk about holy rollers and the moral high ground, Newt Gingrich isn't your guy. If you want, well, again, what a stupid person thinks a smart person sounds like, or, pseudo-wonky, or if you just like moon bases and zoos, like Newt Gingrich. Or maybe you like blondes half your age, like Newt Gingrich. Whatever. There are reasons to support Newt Gingrich, but being a holy roller is not one of them.
I wouldn't, by and large, agree. But see, something I do like about Mitt,
hold on.
He's a wretch.
But hold on. About the time that this list came out, we learned that Newt Gingrich had funneled approximately $250,000 into the anti-judge campaign. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's some backdoor politics there.
But Gingrich, literally bought his way into the good graces of Bob Vander Plaats. And he wasn't subtle about it. He wasn't, he certainly didn't broadcast it from the
Gingrich
the hill.
Isn't subtle about anything, though. That's kind of indicative of his personality.
And Vander Plaats wasn't subtle. Like, one of these things is not like the others, but we're just going to, ignore the differences. Newt Gingrich is still one of our possible endorsees. And he got called on, and I think they ended up not endorsing.
I don't even remember who they endorsed, but it had no effect.
Well, yeah, it had no effect. His effect is always a little louder than
a lot of
nothing,
money. A lot of money wasted for nothing.
And they spent a ton. They're going to spend a ton again this year. But Vander Plaats, I'm guessing in private, Vander Plaats is pretty open about it. But Chuck Hurley needed more money after it turned out. And thanks to the Iowa Independent, which is no more, for pointing this one out, that, Chuck Hurley, the day after he speaks at the Tax Day Tea Party, federal spending is bad. Turns out $3 million of federal money went to the family leader under suspicious circumstances that will never get investigated. Marriage Matters wasn't a separate company. Just heads up. So that money dries up. Now they have to go find funding, and Vander Plaats was very good at that. But he's a grifter. Anyway, get back to this, pro, slavery. But he's not only the only crazy Arkansas Republican. Here is Loy Mock, who wrote, if slavery was so god-awful, why didn't Jesus or Paul condemn it? Why was it in the Constitution? And why wasn't there a war before 1861? Yeah, I ain't opening that can of worms with you, Dan. I want to get along.
We could get along just fine. I don't think the Bible supports slavery in the manner in which it was done.
That's not what Frederick Douglass said, who had a little more experience in the matter.
I don't think the Bible supports slavery. I don't think you can make.
There were many Christians at the time. Who
there were.
Did
the Puritans were wrong.
No, it wasn't just the Puritans. It was Calvinist. It was the
Did you just say Calvinist
at the time?
That's Puritans. You're talking about the Puritans. That is who the Puritans are, and I would tell you point blank they were wrong. And I'm a Calvinist, and I will tell you point blank they were just dead wrong.
Again, the religious belief at the time is that God made the workers and God made the thinkers, and it is natural for the thinkers to oversee the workers.
They actually called them the sons of Cain. Cain, of course, was one of the first children. He committed the first murder in the Bible, Cain and Abel. He was cursed, and the people underneath him were cursed.
Cursed with what?
Apparently black skin. This is what the Puritans taught. It's wrong. It's not biblical. It's wrong. And even if, let's just go out on a limb and say these are the people of Cain, which I believe died out a long time ago. All right? And I don't think they were black, by the way. Even if it was, there's nothing in the Bible that allows us to capture men and treat them poorly. In fact, there was a mark put on Cain so that people wouldn't do this to them. And so this is it's an awkward theology that's wrong.
But it's why I always take a step back when I see something. We need to vote in a godly manner. Because it's worse than a useless term. Because again, if you ask 1,000 people, you're going to get 1,000 different answers.
Well, and that's really the problem is we've splintered ourselves. It's not that the gospel itself is worthless, Bradshaw. It's that people take it wrong.
Well,
and
which
the Puritans
parts
were wrong.
are we going to focus on?
We're going to focus on the Bible and quit trying to.
Then we should ban Red Lobsters based on this portion of the Bible.
Yeah, but see, there you go, taking stuff out of context. You can't take the Bible out of any one portion. It's complete. It's not meant to be portioned. That's the problem. Is people go, I like this, so I'm going to focus on this. So a slave owner will go, I like the part where it says my slave should be content in his role. That's really convenient. Except that in those times, a slave was somebody that sold him or his children into slavery to pay a debt. So like, say you broke your leg and you couldn't pay for the surgery from the physician. You said, look, I'll be your servant for a year to pay this off. They were called slaves, and you were allowed to put them all through there.
There were different rules having,
It wasn't
the Jews and the Gentiles. There were different rules for,
and they weren't allowed to treat them bad.
Well, now you shouldn't hurt the Jewish slaves in the Old Testament.
You shouldn't hurt any slaves. There was no. And that's the problem.
If they heal in time, then you're okay.
No, but those are civil penalties, Bradshaw. It's not that they're okay, like you're okay to have done it.
No, if they heal in what was it, 2 days?
You'll have to point that out to me because I'm not familiar with that.
Then there's no problem.
But it's not that there's no problem. It's not that people won't think you're a bad person. It's that there's no legal ramification. It's like if you get in an accident with somebody in your car and you don't hurt them and you pay for the damage, then it's no problem.
Again, I would argue every religious person is in some way, shape, or form a cafeteria. Like, there are probably people out there who absolutely positively focus on, I should give away my worldly possessions and follow Jesus.
Sure.
Probably not a good idea. He's not around.
Well, he is around, but he's not here. Yeah, see, and I agree with you. A lot of people take these out of context.
There are people who believe that there is one Jew left wandering the earth from the time of Jesus.
Sure.
The lonely wanderer.
Sure.
Who is still around because, you said, some of you are going to be around to see the end of the earth. So it only makes sense that one of them is
was the second coming, but anyway.
2,000 years.
It's not the end of the earth. This apocalyptic language meant something to these people.
Yeah.
They should have understood it. If they don't,
well, they probably did understand it 2,000 years ago.
But we don't understand it. And that's part of reading the entire Bible in the context in which it was written, to the people it was written, and in the culture that it was written. These were laws to protect things that were culturally already acceptable. It wasn't guidelines on defining culture. And that's what I have.
Well, culture defines religion. We had this discussion, and I know we don't agree, but again, go 1,000 years down your family line, 1,000 years on mine, and if we're having this same discussion, in the year 3000, maybe we're having it over,
yeah, I doubt we'll be
mental
talking about
links in our flying cars, but
we won't have the same issues.
No, religion will be very different.
I agree that religion will be different as far as there will be different issues that we need to address, but the overall narrative of the Bible will be the same. And that's my only point there. I know you don't disagree or agree. That's okay. I mean, I'm cool with you being wrong on that.
Well, that's the point. What define wrong?
Wrong. Like you answered 2 + 2 = 7. That's wrong.
But again, if I ask, the head of the Mormon Church, you're wrong. If I ask the Pope, you're wrong, and the Mormon guy is wrong.
I'm open to this kind of argument. You're right. They're going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm going to tell them they're wrong. Now we have to figure out what to do.
That's my point. Is that when you say vote in a godly manner, it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't in that aspect. If you tell a Mormon to vote in a godly manner, their godly manner isn't anything like mine. I wrote a whole blog about it yesterday about how I'm not a Mormon, and so you've got this. You do have that. The problem with a lot of
if I talk to a Southern Baptist,
sure,
he's not going to agree.
100%. Well, sometimes actually Southern Baptists probably would. They're fairly Calvinistic in nature.
The snake handlers.
Yeah, they're not going to agree with me because I'm going to tell them they're idiots.
Speaking in English, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to go pick up a viper. Why? It's poisonous. It's stupid.
Your faith will protect you. If you go to a doctor, the Christian scientists are going to look at you.
Yeah, my faith also tells me that I should be intelligent. That's. Like I said, I agree with you.
I wish that were more often the case.
I understand. I wish more often people would read the Bible in the context it was presented. It'd be a lot easier.
All right. Slaves, obey thy master. It's in there. Actually, the U.S. had laws governing how slaves were treated. Just like your pets. Vader had to be fed, groomed, and clothed. I'm not putting clothes on Vader.
I do have one Bears shirt for my dog.
No, that's a rule. If a sweater ever goes on my dog, the lady friend and I break up, and I get custody.
See, and that was something my wife brought about. I thought buying clothes for dog was stupid.
Buying clothes for dogs is stupid.
But if she's going to buy clothes, the Bears is okay.
It's never acceptable. Little doggy coats, little doggy sweaters.
Yeah, and by the way, whoever tweeted that, I wasn't arguing that that's not in the Bible. I'm arguing the permission to own slaves and the way they were owned is not in the Bible.
Yeah, and again, it's an endless discussion that's been going on for thousands of years. Why didn't Jesus take some time out and tell people don't have abortions?
Because that wasn't relevant to the context.
It was again,
and he did. He said, "Thou shalt not murder," and that was pretty much covered it.
Well, again, abortion was well known. You'd think, since it's the biggest issue in evangelical America today,
sure,
I think Jesus would have stopped for 5 minutes.
If Jesus covered every issue for the next 100,000 years or however long the Earth's going to be around,
or at least pass on some knowledge of germ theory,
we would be
help us out a bit here.
Think about how paranoid as a society we'd be if we had all these rules for future. Now, we do have those, but they're in the spirit of the law. Like, I believe the Mosaic law that you like to quote to me a lot is only valid in spirit. So when it tells me I should be kind to my slave, I think of my employees and go, I should be appropriately kind to my employees.
I think there's a problem off the top. We start with an issue when discussion of slaves leads you to think of your employees.
Well, no, I don't think so at all. They work for me, and I ought to be kind for them.
Why does my paycheck say Toby on it?
It doesn't. It says Kuta Kinte. That's different. That's the thing is, like, you hear slavery, I hear we ought to be kind to somebody. Somebody that's underneath of us. We ought to be kind to.
Maybe I'm more of a biblical literalist than you.
I don't think that. I mean, with slavery, it's not an issue. So how does that apply? Well, I have people that work underneath me that serve me.
It's an issue of learning from history.
I think it's an issue of learning from the Bible too.
But learn how it's been used by.
People have misused it. I mean, I can't apologize enough for Pat Robertson. I just can't.
Pat Robertson's a grifter.
He is.
He wants to sell you.
So's Joel Osteen. So's Creflo Dollar. So's Eddie Long Jr.
Are you telling me the guy that's sending me the prayer rugs in the mail? And by the way, any list like that.
Are they nice? Because I wanted one of those.
No, it's just cheap paper. But I want to know exactly what mailing list has me as a potential target for that, and know how much you're charging for it, because you are ripping people off. I
got to be honest. If I saw something like that, I would totally send it to you. Holy water. I mean, if you ever see like holy water, particularly if it's yellow.
Yeah, the oils, they'll send you the anointing oils, put this on your letter, and send back your check, and
sure,
thousands of dollars will come your way. And there's,
I'm going to come anoint you tomorrow. Totally throwing olive oil all over you. It'd be awesome.
No, I'm not John Ashcroft. There will be no anointing.
I don't believe in that, actually.
Anointing me with oil. I mean, unless I got a kink here. If you just want to. No homo.
I'm not rubbing your back.
Oh, come on. It's perfectly okay. I'm comfortable with who I am.
I'm not comfortable with who you are.
All right, maybe we'll cover the multiple choice mid stuff tomorrow. I made a bit of noise in the Des Moines Register. It's saying there's no legislation with regards to abortion that I'm familiar with that would become part of my agenda. Which, again, I got a kick out of hearing Mitt Romney say, 2 days after Steve Deace finally got on board the Mormon train. So I did get a bit of a kick out of that. Don't worry, though. The Romney campaign, 2 hours later, walked back those comments and disavowed them. But and this is why I'm not so worried about next week's presidential debate or even tomorrow night's vice presidential debate. I think that we are. The Obama team didn't get this far by accident. I'm guessing you're going to see a very big debate performance, and again, the rendering of garments, the vapors, all of that coming back from the right. Which, to be honest, I got to admit, I've enjoyed for the last week or so seeing the old right wing back in their fire breathing self. I kind of missed them. now with some good news on Romney. They're roaring back, and it will be fun to watch them curl back into the ball from which they came from earlier this summer. So I have no fears. Email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. Or just go to thebradshawshow.com for almost all of your Bradshaw needs. It's got links to the archives there, the email and the Twitter. Just go to thebradshawshow.com. If you want to listen to just the audio feed, we got that. Or, hey, we're happy to have you here on Webcast One Live. I will see you fine folks tomorrow getting ready for the debate, which should be a hoot.